Hey everybody, welcome to another action-packed, exciting episode of Scotty's Record Shop. In this particular video, we're going to take a look at the studio discography, or at least a small chunk of the studio discography from Bob Dylan. We're going to look at the 60s in this video because there's 40 studio albums. And so we're going to take a look at all of them over the course of time. But 40 albums to talk about. It would be an extremely long video, and I don't want to put you or me through that. So we'll break it up. I've seen other people do it in different ways. You know, my doing it like in a tier list, and even ranking the '60s, and then going to the '70s, and then going to the '80s, and having it on a tier list. But you still get to see everything how it the '60s and the '70s and the '80s kind of all line up. I'm just going to do the '60s, '70s, separate video, '80s, separate video, and then probably the '90s through, his most recent stuff. There's so much stuff here. Not even going to get into the live albums, at least not right now, or the bootleg series. Dylan's camp has done an amazing job with these bootleg series. They're up to 18 at this point in time. Can't wait to see what the next one's going to be. So we might actually look at those. I don't know if we'll rank them or I'll just talk about them. I don't know, and that's way down the road. Anyway, we might as well just get into it, right? Some of these, there could be a hot take. I don't know. One in particular, people put a lot higher than I do. First of all of these albums are really good. His '60s output was amazing. Okay, so there's even though some things at the bottom, it doesn't mean that it's crap by any stretch. Okay, so and when we get to like the '80s, yes, there's going to be some stuff that's at the bottom that's it's going to be kind of crap. Okay, well, and for you, those of you who are Dylan fans, you know what I'm talking about. But let's get into it, shall we? We have what, 9 albums? One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9 albums. I am not including the basement tapes, even though they were recorded in 1967. Early '67, they didn't come out until 1975, so that's going to be put in to the 1970s list. Okay, we're going to start off at the very beginning. 1962, Bob Dylan. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this album. And if this was the only thing Bob Dylan ever did, there's people would probably who are lovers of folk music would go, this is a long lost gem. This guy only put out one album, and it's pretty damn good. Only 2 songs on here aren't covers, and they're both good. You know, especially his tribute to Woody Guthrie. He was trying to be a Woody Guthrie on this album in some ways. That was his hero, his mentor. But there's some really interesting things on here. His cover of House of the Rising Sun. This people would go back and look at this and in my time of dying, Led Zeppelin did their alteration of that. Uh, you know, and I'm not necessarily saying that Bob Dylan recording, say, House of the Rising Sun, inspired the Animals to record their version because it's different. But you never know. Um, this is a good album. Some people don't like some of his vocal textures on this stuff. Not just, I mean, Bob Dylan's voice is an acquired taste. Let's get real. But he kind of does like an old man kind of grunty kind of voice on some songs. Trying to fit into the character of the song that he was doing it. I don't mind it. The guy was 20 years old when he made this record. So I think he did a pretty dang good job. At number 9 on my list of 1960s Bob Dylan, his first. Bob Dylan. And like I said, a good album. Hot take. Possibly a hot take. 1967, John Wesley Harding. Um, I am trying to like this album more than I do. This has got the original version of All Along the Watchtower on it, which even Dylan said he felt that Jimi Hendrix brought that to a new level, and he was very happy with Hendrix's version. This album, to me, kind of feels like a demo album. It was done really, 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 really quickly in Nashville. He had disappeared. I mean, everybody knows. Well, not everybody, maybe not, but some people know that after Blonde on Blonde and his acclaim that he was getting, he was being hated by some people, by the purists, folk purists, and he was being adored and raised above everything. He was, the new messiah in music, and he just couldn't deal with it, and he had a motorcycle accident. And I'm doing that because a lot of people question how badly he was really hurt, but it gave him a chance to escape. And even he said it. It's like, I needed to get off this crazy merry-go-round, and he did. And he was gone for like a year and a half, and even though he was doing like the basement tapes, um, with the band that would become the band, in upstate New York, he he came back. He did this album really quickly, and I mean, I'm talking like in a day or something. I read down in Nashville, and honestly, Dylan does a lot of things quickly, and he doesn't like doing retakes. He's just, this is how it is. Dylan never does anything the same thing twice. Go see him live. He never does a song the same way twice, and this just seems rough. There's a couple songs on here where the guitar is actually sort of, not sort of, it's out of tune, dude. It's out of tune. Um, and I don't know if he. Dylan is a damn good musician, great guitar player. He really is, actually. If you listen to his finger picking and everything, great guitar player, and a good piano player as well. Um, so I hardly doubt that this was intentional. Like, I want to make this sound like a field recording. Some old blues guy, um, you know, down in Louisiana, one of these 1930s, 1940s, um, recordings. This guy, his guitar is 100 years old, and he's 99, and he's a little out of tune, but that gives it a little character. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't give character here. It's just like, dude, you're in a recording studio. You know, tune the guitar, okay? Um, this, uh, and it's very sparse, which in some ways is good, but it just seems like they just blew this one out. Lyrically, too, this is an interesting album because this is a very, um, even though the music is very sparse for the most part, the um, the lyrics are very thick. Um, really listen to these lyrics. I mean, there are some people that say you really want to get into how deep Dylan can write. Pull out this album and check out the tunes on this. Um, I just can't get. I didn't want another Blonde on Blonde, right? But at the same time, this just seemed half-assed to me. Still not bad. Don't get me wrong. Again, these are not horrible albums. This is still pretty enjoyable for me, you know. But that's how I feel. It's at number 8, John Wesley Harding. By the way, the person that he was naming this after, his name is not John Wesley Harding. It's John Wesley Harding. No G. Hardin. Just, I don't know. A lot of dope being smoked back then, probably. All right. We're getting into his classic folk era here. Um, what was this? 1974, I believe? 73, 74. Anyway, his protest album. The times they are changing. Uh, this is a really good album, but it's a dark album. Some people criticize this album and they put it down a little lower because of some of the subject matter. The people that he's singing about were issues that happened, protests, civil rights issues, people being killed in the 1960s. So they're kind of like, well, that doesn't really apply. Doesn't It's not really as relevant today. It's um, you know, Hattie Carroll, who's that, right? Some of you would say that. but I think it's just as relevant today in many ways as it was back then. So that factor doesn't bother me at all. But and there's nothing really that bothers me on this album per se. It's a heavy album. It's a very, I almost want to say dark, because he's dealing with, this is his protest album, people call it, and this really put him in the darling seat of the folk community, because at the time the folk community, a lot of people were Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie. These guys were all a part of the Socialist Party, and the Socialist Party kind of rather smartly employed folk music to reach the younger kids, to kind of lure them in. And Dylan was having none of it. Um, and even because he put this out and everybody's like, we got him. He put out, it's Dylan. He's an amazing writer. This is a brilliant album. We've got him. No, you don't, because he walked away from this. It was intense. He needed to do it. He believed in what he was writing, but he wasn't going to be a protest singer. He's done songs since this, obviously, where he's taken on social issues. He absolutely has. But they couldn't, you just can't pigeonhole Dylan. And he also didn't like the adulation. The thing about Dylan is he doesn't like people putting him so high above. He's just this, I use the word prophet, kind of half-assly kind of, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious when I say that, but at the same time, it's like this is, people were praising him too much, and it was making him feel uncomfortable, and this was not what he was about. So anyway, the number 7 for me, the times they are a-changin'. His response to this adulation, especially from Freewheeling, The Times They Are Changing, and this next album. The first two albums, those two albums were really like, people were lifting him up. This really alienated him, this next album. Even though it was a folk album, it's kind of a transitionary album too. It's Another Side of Bob Dylan, 1964. This album, he just kind of, for the most part, threw away the protest singer because he was expected to put out another. You just don't, that's the one thing about Dylan, don't expect him to do something. You've done this, now you're gonna do it again. No, you're not. No, he's not. And if a record company or somebody tells him you're going to do that, he's going to go in the exact opposite direction. More introspective on this stuff, right here, 1964, and the folk purists hated it, which I'm surprised because it's a brilliant folk album. But he was really moving in another direction, and we'll see that. I mean, 1965 gave the folk purists, especially at the Newport Folk Festival, a heart attack. I mean, Pete Seeger supposedly, rumor is that Pete Seeger, when he was playing the Newport Folk Festival in 1965, was running around looking for an axe to cut the power line to get Dylan off the stage because he was so pissed off at what Dylan was doing, because they didn't know what he was going to do. He just shows up with a band and and rips through Maggie's farm. And they were all just like, huh? But anyway, this is kind of a transition album. Again, a great album. You can't go wrong with this stuff. Some people joke that this is kind of a Byrds. The Byrds ripped off half this album to make the Byrds. I mean, that's not totally true, but this was. He was super influential, and we can look back on this now and just see how brilliant he was. Just a brilliant songsmith. He's not a great, well, actually that's not true. A lot of people will say he's not a great singer. I tell you to go get the bootleg series. I can't remember what number it is, but it's 1975, Live 1975. You don't think Dylan can sing? He rips it on that. He rips it on that album. So he can really kind of sing good. He still has a unique voice, but this is just his uniqueness. You know what I mean? Um, you get people like Leon Russell or um, I'm trying to think who else. There are other people who have kind of weird, distinctive voices, and this is just a distinctive voice. That's all. Great album though. Great album. Another Side of Bob Dylan, 1964. And we're going to keep going now. This album, I was just talking the other day to a friend of mine, Rockin' Roger. Hi, Rockin' Roger, if you're going to watch this video. We're talking about Dylan albums because he's like, I like the 60s stuff. Of course, you know, if you're a Dylan fan, you like Blonde on Blonde. But he was like surprised that I said, I absolutely adore this album. And there's reasons for it. And the last album in 19 of the 60s, it's Nashville Skyline. Now this is not a deep album. It's just it's and it's a flat out country album. He didn't like invent country rock on here. I mean, this is just he's down in Nashville. He's got some great pickers on this, and there's just some great songs on here. He's got Johnny Cash, um, you know, on the first track, which is kind of interesting. There's another person who has kind of a distinctive, unique voice. He had it anyway, and Love It or Hate It, the opening track where they're both singing or trying to. It just got charm. This album's got charm, and a part of the reason why I love this album is because when I was little, even though we did not have this album, my parents loved country music. A lot of 60s Merle Haggard, um, um, Loretta Lynn, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. They loved that stuff, so I heard that stuff all the time. So it's just kind of comfortable for me. This album is like a nice, warm, comfy blanket, kind of. You don't have to sit there and go, I wonder what Bob's singing about. Ponder the meaning of that song. And there's none of that on here. It's just love songs and just a good old country album, you know. So I really, really dig this album a lot. That's number, let's see here, one, two, three, four. This is my fifth favorite Bob Dylan album from the 1960s, Nashville Skyline. These reissues are really good too. I've never shown the inside of these CDs, but they mimic the original label. And if you go back to the very first album, it mimics that label as well. So, and these sound great. I have all these on vinyl, you know, downstairs. This would be a good time for me to take and talk about my journey with Dylan. So I won't have to do this again in every video, but I liked Dylan. I liked like the hits, and I knew Blonde on Blonde, and I knew Blood on the Tracks, but you know, I didn't. I knew Infidels, you know, an 80s album. I saw it. I didn't pick it up originally. It was like, it's okay, I guess. I didn't, you know, but I was more of a casual fan. But about a year or two ago, I I don't know what happened. I just was like, I really like Dylan. I want to dive deep into Dylan. And I had bought, like about 3 or 4 years ago, I bought the mono box set, 60s mono box set, vinyl. And that kind of sort of got me going. I pulled that out and was like, well, this stuff is just really, really, really good. So, and I had no problem with Dylan's voice. I mean, some people do. And we'll get to some other albums, especially towards more recent albums where his voice is like shot to hell. But there's something about it that character or something. It just adds something because his. We'll get to that stuff, and I'll explain how the music, the style that he's making at that particular point in time, the voice fits the style. It's not like somebody like Paul McCartney, whose voice has aged horribly, who, and this is my opinion, but is trying to do rock, and he's not 25 years anymore. He can't sing that stuff anymore. but he insists on singing that stuff. And, God love him, but there it is. So anyway, that's my journey into Dylan. Okay. This album, his second album, okay, The Freewheel and Bob Dylan, when you go from this album, his first album, which is all covers, and only two originals, and the originals are okay, but they're not mind-blowing. When you go from this to this is one of the most dramatic, I don't know what word to use, improvement or revelation. It's like he just wasn't really right. The reason that there's only two songs in here is he wasn't writing a hell of a lot back then. Something happened between this, and this was not that far removed from his first album. He went from being an, all right kind of songwriter to being absolutely freaking brilliant. Something happened, you know. This is a fantastic. If you want an introduction to Bob Dylan's folk stuff, I would say this is a good place to start. This is just a great album. Some real classics on here. His girlfriend at the time, Susie Rotolo, I think her name was. She really was a catalyst for him getting into his protest era. From what I understand, she really kind of sparked him to kind of be more socially aware. But this has just got some unbelievable classics on here, and there's a couple of songs that are okay. There's nothing horrible on this album, but like I said, out of all of the next three albums are his mid 60s. You can't deny them. They're brilliance. But this, like I said, if you are looking for a good place to start with Dylan's acoustic era stuff from the 60s, it's right here, baby. It's right here. Great album. Number 4 for me, for Dylan in the 60s. All right, we're going to get to the three big ones, the electric or semi-electric albums. And one that most people put at number 1, I put it at number 3 because if you've watched my videos in the past, you know I don't like double albums. There's almost always, and I can honestly say probably always, there's something on every double album, at least studio album, where it's like, I could do without that. Now this album, and I'm talking about obviously Blonde on Blonde, this album, there's plenty of double albums where I can go, I'm going to take away half of it and we'll make a 5-star album. This one, I can't take half of it away. I could take one side of this away and call it good. It'd be an album and a half. But there's stuff on here that I just can't take away. That's so damn essential. Some people complain about how this album starts. You know, Rainy Day Women. It's kind of a weird way to start an album. But it's Dylan. It's the way Dylan is, you know. Just like a woman. The one song that a lot of people like on here, Sad Lady of the Lowlands, which he wrote for his wife, or wife-to-be. I'm not sure if they were married at this point in time, 1966, but that's a long song. Dylan has a thing about writing long songs, and a lot of times I don't want to say bored, but it's like, I don't know. It's an okay song. For me, I know a lot of people love it, and you guys are probably yelling, going, "That's a great friggin' song!" And if you think it's a great friggin' song, I'm happy for you. But there's so much on this that is, even to me, just absolutely drop dead wonderful. This album came out a week after I was born, on June 20th, I believe, June 20th, 1966. And an interesting note: this is the very first rock double album ever released. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention missed it by 1 week. Their album, Freak Out, came out in June 27th, 1966. So they missed having the acclaim of having the very first rock album, double album, by 1 week. And I don't think that there was any conspiring or anything. I don't think either one of them knew they were making this. These albums, it just happened. And Dylan has a tendency of doing a lot of firsts, you know. But his tour for this, if you can get the the box that they released, the 66 shows, and there's also on the bootleg series, um, there's a I think it's like four bootleg series number 4 or 5, and it's the live show from God, Manchester, um, Union Trade Hall, I think. And it's the show where the guy yells out Judas, because he was so pissed off. He was a folkie, and Dylan's going out there. And what Dylan would do is he'd play a show of, or he'd do half the show or a good chunk of the show of acoustics to make everybody happy, right? If you want to hear, he's singing the acoustic songs. Then he comes out with the group that would be called the band. They were the Hawks at the time. Um, or most people would refer to them, and that's how they got their name, was Bob Dylan and the band, and they were kind of saying it in a kind of an insult. Yeah, that band, the band that ruined him. Um, but, but this guy yells Judas in between songs, and Dylan, and well-known story, Dylan says, "You're a liar." I don't believe you. And then he turns around and he looks at the band and says, "Play it fucking loud." And they did. They ripped into the set, man, and they played it aggressively just to piss that one guy off. That's Dylan right there. But this is a great, great, great album. All three of these. Well, I mean, it's Dylan. The 60s stuff is great. So anyway, my third favorite Dylan album from the 60s, Blonde on Blonde. Um, the next one would be the first electric album, rock album. But not completely, because side two, for the most part, is this is a weird thing. You'd think that Dylan would help his fans. I'm talking about bringing it all back home. I You would think Dylan would take and say, okay, well, one side's acoustic, the other side is rock. Let's put the acoustic on side one, so that when people put it on, they're like, okay, it's Dylan, and maybe we're going to work you into the electric stuff. And then side two, let's put the rock stuff. No, no, not Dylan. We're going to put the rock stuff on side one and just completely piss everybody off. And then the acoustic stuff on the side two. Um, wow. Um, this at times is my favorite album. The writing on this album, this is really where Dylan gets, what would be the word? Um, Thick, heavy, very wordy, very, a lot of literary um, things that he's taking from. These lyrics are are deep and are hard to grasp a hold of sometimes. Um, but this is just a great, great album. This pushed Maggie's Farm. Right? This pushed the Folkies over the edge, and they never forgave him for that. But this was a great, great album. Bringing it all back home. My second favorite Dylan album from the 1960s. Number one, it just is. This is weird because I'm putting this thing together and I'm going, I don't want to put this at number one because it's so damn cliche. I want to put this at number one, maybe, or even. Well, it would make some of you happy if I put this at number one, but even more, right? It just is what it is. Like a Rolling Stone. Oh, I'm talking about Highway 61 Revisited, by the way. Second album for 1965. Uh, just, just an amazing, great album. The to me, this is the height of Dylan being a very deep philosophical writer, songwriter. Um, when when he brought Like a Rolling Stone to Columbia Records, said, "Okay, this is going to be the single." They're like, "Oh, this is a great song, but it's freaking 6 minutes long or 5 minutes long. This is 1965. We're going to edit it." And he's like, "No, you're not." They're like, "Well, we have to edit it. Radio will not play it." And this war went on for a while, a little while anyway. And while this was going on, because Columbia was like, "This is not formatable," because radio in 1965 were playing Beatles songs that were 2 minutes long. They were playing Sonny and Cher songs. They were all 2 minutes long. They're AM radio friendly. You cannot release this. This is not good. So what ended up happening was AM radio, because the song was so damn good, just started playing the full version. And it got to a point where Columbia was like, okay. And this was really the first time that AM radio grasped onto a song. I can't think of any other song that came out before this that's like 6 minutes long and is this wordy and this, you know, intense, that AM radio grasped onto. And they didn't care. I mean, it was at the point where it's like, well, we can't play this. And the program directors were like, people want to hear it. We're playing it, even if it screws up our format. So Dylan really kicked down a door here, because after this, people were like, hey, you know what? Dylan can get a 6 minute song played on the radio. We can too, as long as it's good. And sure as hell, it eventually did happen. Um, but this is it. And again, not that the other albums, they're all great, and especially with like these two, they switch. Some days, even this, I love this album. Did I say I love this album? But anyway. So, my favorite, at least for today, favorite Dylan album from the 60s, Highway 61 Revisited. Okay. The next one, it may not be a Dylan video. There may be a ranking. Apparently, you guys like me doing ranking videos, which is fine. Uh, the next one may not be Dylan, but the next Dylan one will be the 70s. And we're going to deal with Self Portrait and the Dylan album. Well, you wonder what I'm going to think about those, huh? Anyway, questions, comments, concerns, down in the comment section. It'd be really appreciated. Every comment helps push the video. The algorithms. And even though I'm kind of like, this isn't my job, I'm doing this for fun because I love talking about music. It would be nice if this channel grew even more. It would just be nice. If it doesn't, then I only make 100 views per video. That's 100 of you that are digging this. So, and I appreciate each and every one of you. But like and subscribe if you feel so compelled. Alrighty, kiddies. Until next time, peace and love.